All right, Steeler fans, it's Friday. It's the second half. It's the All Bets Are Off segment, and we have Jeremy Jerome Betz back with us after a week off. Jeremy, how is it going, man?
Man, I'm so glad to be back. It was not fortuitous circumstances that has kept
Yeah,
me out this time, but so glad to be back with you, Jeff, talking some Steelers football. And I got to say, man, maybe I'm the good luck charm. Ever since I
that's
had
right.
stopped, we've been losing. So
That's
maybe
right.
we'll win this week.
So, just real quick, how are things in Western North Carolina? I mean, we've seen it in the news. Now, all of a sudden, all the attention's going to Florida, obviously, with the latest Hurricane Milton going through. But still, how are things in the recovery effort?
Yeah, prayers for those down in Florida. We know what you're going through. And you know better than we do, obviously, because Floridians go through stuff like this all the time.
Right.
But here in the mountains, it's just been rough. I mean, you're talking about infrastructure changes that are going to take years to recoup and just starting to rebuild. And there's a lot that's going to have to be done. There's whole places you still can't access. I work in restoration, so we're working on homes already, trying to get trees off of homes and get people's floods taken care of. So it's a process, it's a mess, and it's not going to be anything that goes away anytime soon. But that being said, people are very helpful to each other up here, coming together as communities and really showing that human spirit that helps us to get through so many things. So it's been fun. Been really awesome to see that, and it's been fun to help people. And
Yeah.
we were blessed. Our situation, our home is fine. Internet was the only thing we were missing. So I've
Yeah.
got that back now. So there's no
Nice.
complaints on my end, and just trying to help people that have it worse now.
And I saw the cat do a Jimmy Superfly snuck off the back of the couch,
Yeah,
so I think the cat's
yeah,
good too. That's good too. So,
yes. She's as in the way as ever.
all right, now let's talk football with the serious stuff out of the way because football is not serious compared to that. The last 2 weeks have been rough, and you've been watching from afar, and I'm sure you've been livid. Uh, do you view this Raiders game though as an opportunity to get right for Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yes, I do. I really do. I think this is a chance for them to reestablish themselves a little bit. This is not a good defense outside of the pass rush. I mean, they have their moments, but they're not good at stopping the pass. They're okay against the run, but they're going to be missing their best interior defensive player now.
Yeah.
And it's a real chance to get right on both sides of the ball, I think, when you consider the fact that Aiden O'Connell's coming in and the lack of weapons on the outside that they like. Jacoby Myers is still iffy for this game, and obviously no Devontae Adams this week. So it's the Brock Bowers show. How do the Steelers handle that? But I'm going to make a fun prediction when we get to it at the end. But I
Okay.
do think this is a Steelers bounce back week for sure.
All right. Do you turn to Russ if he's healthy?
I don't. I think I've seen it, what Justin can do, and I think that continuing to build on that and see if he's the guy for the future. You've seen enough from him, I think, to where you should feel comfortable putting the ball in his hands. And I think, obviously, I've got a philosophical difference of opinion from the Pittsburgh Steelers in a lot of ways and how they play offensive football. We've talked about that. I think they should turn the chariot loose and not be afraid to make mistakes on that side of the ball. And let them have a chance to go win some ball games and not play scared. But I don't think that the losses have been on Justin Fields. I don't think he played particularly well last week, but I think the body of work overall has been positive, and you don't take a guy out at this point who shows as much upside as he does when you really haven't even tapped into the rushing potential in more than maybe a couple games so far this year.
Well, let me ask you this. So let's say Justin Fields' performance in week 5 against the Cowboys in that crazy circumstance with the weather and the delay and all that stuff. Let's say that is his floor. Like that's his new floor. That's the way he played is like, this is as bad as it's going to get. What would his ceiling look like? Because I don't think we've seen that or even come close to seeing that. What would that look like? And it doesn't have to be a numerical thing. It could just be you and how you would view it. What do you say?
Yeah, I really think it's kind of what we saw in the second half last week, or excuse me, the week before.
Against Indy.
Yeah, against Indy. Yeah, and where he's taking care of things on the ground when he needs to, but hitting those explosives down the field, able to lead your team back, able to build a big lead if the Steelers will give him that chance in the first half of games.
Yeah.
I think what you saw in Chicago in some of the big games from him where he would throw for 300 yards, four touchdowns, and then he's rushing for 60, 70 yards. It's where he's in control. He's really hitting the downfield shots, and it's opening up the middle of the field for him to run. It's allowing the team to operate underneath as well, because you just can't play up on these guys if they're beating you down the field all the time. So I think the lack of weapons is hindering that to a degree. So the Steelers need to figure that out, and we've had plenty of talk on that in that regard. But Justin Fields, to me, his ceiling is a guy who can provide you the explosives you want, and win in multiple different ways, whether it's passing down the field, whether it's using his legs, whether it's coming from behind and giving his team a chance with the last drive of the game, or, like I said, building a big lead and trying to play game manager down the stretch. I think that there's multitude of ways he can play. I just think that the Steelers have to be willing to let him do so in all four quarters, not just in the second half if they're down.
Yeah. All right. I'll ask you one more question about a specific player on the team, and then we're going to go into our picks for the AFC North. But what's your take on this George Pickens stuff, whether it's the eye black, the slamming of the helmet, not talking to the media, but not really talking to the media? What's your take on George Pickens?
Man, he's an enigma of a person and a player. I think you see the talent, and it's undeniable, obviously, but you also see some of the issues that, maybe made him fall down the draft board even more so than some of the injuries he sustained, where you don't know if there's character concerns that are just because he's a kid and working through those things, or if those are part of his personality, part of his character. I think we're seeing that it's more of a struggle for him than maybe we were hoping for. But while I will say that I was disappointed in his performance and the way he played football this last week and the effort he showed, I think this is a guy who can bounce back. I think this is a guy that the team believes in, and I could be totally wrong about that. I could be reading into it how I want to see it, but I just think that with that type of talent and with where I think this offense can go, at some point it's going to round into form, and that he's going to be a big part of it. So maybe that's wishful thinking, wish casting this a little bit, but I'm willing to do that because of what we've seen from him. And I mean, it's not every play that he's taking off. There are times where you see extraordinary effort from him. We've seen it on long touchdown receptions. We've seen it blocking on the backside where he just takes a guy out who's not paying attention. I mean, there are good effort plays in there. I just think he needs to be more consistent with it and more willing to do it when he knows he's not getting the football. That's the one to me where it's like, if he knows the play's not going his way, that's where I see him kind of going halfway on it. And that's where I think things need to stop. But concentration drops, those things are going to happen. I don't necessarily think that that's part of the problem. I just think he needs to refocus. I think he will a little bit as the Steelers continue to play.
Like from my vantage point, and this is just my opinion, the eye black, he's going to get fined by the league. They'll handle that. You want to keep losing your money, keep writing stupid crap on your eye black. And Tomlin can say, look, keep the expletives off it. You want to write open always? Sure, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. The way he treats the media, there's a million players in the league, maybe not a million, that's the exaggeration, but there's a lot of players in the league that hate the media. They don't want to talk to the media. The only time they do is because they have to. Go back to Marshawn Lynch. I'm only here so I don't get fined. And so if he's giving one-word answers and just doesn't really care, he doesn't really care. The only thing in the helmet throwing, all that stuff, I don't even care about that. Antonio Brown used to chuck Gatorade jugs like it was his job. But do you know what Antonio Brown never did? He never dogged it in a play.
Right.
That guy went 100% every single snap of the football, especially on a passing play, because he was, the way Ben Roethlisberger played, you're never not going to potentially get the ball because if he's scrambling, you got to be there. Watching some of these clips of Pickens dogging it through routes, that's what gets me. Yes. Because if Pickens was playing at 100% every time he was on the field, number one, they wouldn't be taking him off for load management. Number two, you would be able to say you can hate all the stuff off the field, but on the field, the guy does it the right way, but he's not doing it the right way.
Right.
That's what gets under my skin with George Pickens is if he were just switch just that one thing, give 100% effort, block, all that stuff every time you're on the field, you can have all the antics in the world, but no one's going to be able to point to your on-field performance and say that's what's missing. So I really hope that George Pickens gets that message. I don't know if he will. I read a couple of scouting reports back from before the draft when he was drafted. A lot of them said this guy could be a top 6 receiver, but there's a lot of red flags. And I think we're starting to see some of those. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But let's talk about our AFC North picks. It's been crazy since the last time you were on the show. The Ravens keep winning. The Browns keep losing. The Bengals keep losing. And it's kind of the tale of two halves of the division with the Steelers and Ravens at 3-2. And the Browns and Bengals at 1-4. So let's talk about it. And I think this is the marquee game of the week. The marquee game of the week. Commanders, Ravens, 1:00 Sunday in Baltimore. The 4-1 Jaden Daniels led Commanders against now the up-and-coming Ravens who are playing really good football, won 3 in a row. Jeremy, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I'm going to have some bold takes this week, Jeff. I think the Ravens absolutely smoked the Washington Commanders.
Okay.
I think the Ravens did you say this is in Washington? I can't remember.
This is in Baltimore.
In Baltimore. Okay.
The Ravens are giving 7. That's insane to me. But go ahead.
Okay. I'm taking the Ravens cashing in on the 7. I think they smoke the Washington Commanders because this Commanders defense is one of the worst in the league. And I think eventually regression to the mean happens for the rookie quarterback. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's this week against the Baltimore Ravens defense that's been playing better. It does sound like they figured some things out schematically and how to use the personnel that they have to create tough reads and situations for quarterbacks. And I mean, they made a mess of Josh Allen a couple weeks ago, and it's just starting to come together for the Ravens. And then the offense is playing well too. Again, we talked about year 2 in an offensive system for the Ravens, how I thought that would be a big boost to them at some point this season. I think you're starting to see that. Lamar Jackson looks comfortable. They need some guys to step up on the outside, but overall, I think that they've got enough to really make life difficult for the Commanders on both sides of the ball. So I think that the Ravens handle and cover the spread pretty easily here.
I think this is going to be a high scoring game. The over under is 51.5. I'm taking the over in that. Yeah. I think that the Commanders actually lose this game, but I think they stay within that 7 points.
Okay.
I think they keep it close enough. All right, let's go to the next game in the AFC North. We've got Browns, Eagles. Eagles are hosting the Browns coming off a bye week. The Browns are struggling. What do you think about this one? The Eagles are giving 9.5.
Whew. I actually don't like that number for the Eagles. I think it's going to be closer than that. The Browns seem to be, I mean, they're a full-fledged dumpster fire. I'll give them that, especially on offense. But the fact of the matter is that the Eagles aren't playing great ball either. And I still think this Cleveland Browns defense can muck things up enough to where games can stay close. So I expect a low scoring affair here. I think I would take the Browns to cover the number here. It being that large, especially it's a lot of bait right there, I think. So, but I'm going to take the Eagles to win. I just think it's going to be closer than that spread would indicate.
If AJ Brown is back, this game is over before it started. I'm going to say that right now because the Eagles offense with AJ Brown, everything else just kind of opens up. But without him, it was not as explosive and dynamic. I think that they're coming off a bye. If they lose this game, the Eagles, Sirianni might be gone like Robert Saleh up in New York. So we'll see. Let's go to the Sunday night game. The Bengals and Giants in primetime in New York. Bengals are 1-4. Giants are 2-3. Cincinnati's giving 3.5 on the road in primetime. Do the Bengals get right?
I think in the win column, yes, but I don't see this Giants team laying down. I think the defense is playing really well, and I think Daniel Jones is actually performing at a pretty high level. I'm not saying he's like a top 10 quarterback or anything like that, but he is divvying the ball to the guys he needs to. I don't know if the rookie Malik Neighbors will be back this week or not. I can't remember what his injury status is. I've been unplugged, obviously, over here for a little bit. So If he's back healthy, I like the Giants to keep it pretty close, but I do think the Bengals win. I don't think they run roughshod over this defense like they have been the last couple of weeks with Joe Burrow and company really lighting it up. But I do think that they get back in the win column this week. They're just too good on offense to not eventually get there. And I don't trust the Giants to be able to hang over 4 quarters with this Bengals offense.
Yeah, I agree. You got to have a high-powered offense to hang with the Bengals because they'll give up the points, but you got to be able to score the points.
Right.
So I'll take the Bengals in this one. Let's go to the game everyone cares about: Pittsburgh at Las Vegas, a 4:05 kickoff. Pittsburgh's giving 3 points on the road. The over/under is set at 36.5. Jeremy, what's your prediction for this game?
Okay, so first I'm going to say I'm taking the under on that over/under number of, you said 36, right?
36.5.
36.5. Okay. I'm taking the under, and here's why. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers come out pissed and play hard, especially on defense. And I know that there's injuries there, but there's matching injuries on the offensive side of the ball for the Raiders, and guys that are missing at key positions. You're starting a quarterback who hasn't started all year, who has a tendency to put the ball in harm's way. And even if you go from O'Connell to Minshew at some point in this game, Minshew throws the ball in harm's way too. He's not mistake-prone quarterback as well. It's not like going from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco. These are basically the same type of quarterback. It just, who's got the hot hand? I think Antonio Pierce trying to find that with Aiden O'Connell. But I think the Steelers come out and play nasty on defense. And I am predicting, Jeff, bold prediction for this week, that the Pittsburgh Steelers cover the spread handily, and they win this game 23-3.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
The defense absolutely smokes this Raiders offense is my prediction here. Yep.
All right. I too like the Steelers to win. I like the Steelers to cover. I also have the under, but by the skin of my teeth.
Okay.
I have the Steelers winning 23-13. So a total of 36 with 36.5. That's still the under. The Steelers are on the road. I just hope that it's a performance that has us in the fourth quarter saying this one's in the bag. We haven't said that in a while, Jeremy. It's always down to the last second, and we're having heart attacks on the weekly basis. It's annoying. So there you go. There are picks. But Jeremy, go ahead and give us what you got coming up with podcasts. I know you got 2 coming up, and then we'll just touch on your normal stuff next week.
Yes. I was going to say, trying to get back to normal next week with things, obviously on the digital side, writing and everything as well. Just haven't been able to do that. But now that I've got internet back, going to get back on with Andrew for our couple podcasts, The Fix and the Draft Dynasty podcast. Those will be running later today when you're hearing this one as well. So check those out. And on The Fix, I think we're going to be grading the offense so far. Cool. So check that out. And then the Draft Dynasty show, as we typically do, we're going to be previewing the upcoming week for fantasy and talking a little bit of college football from the week that has been. So going to be relying on Andrew a lot this week to fill me in on some of what happened through college football since I wasn't able to watch it, but we are going to be back to rolling. And then next week we will get a lot of the, you'll start seeing me back on the written side as well for Fans First Sports Network and Steel Curtain Network.
All right, man. It's been great talking to you again. Stay safe, and we'll talk next week.
Have a good one, Jeff.
See ya.